AI has changed how we live our lives, but it's also changed how we're discovering new products. So earlier this year, we commissioned a survey of over 1,000 shoppers and how their customer journey is changing. And so we're going to share those results with you today. Newly released, and they're also in the magazine we have here, so feel free to take a copy. And then most importantly, we're going to talk with Kait here about how you're seeing AI impact. And I mean, you have the holy grail of online to offline and offline to online, and what that journey really looks like and how AI is impacting it. So with that, we hope you walk away with a few actionable takeaways, and we'll go from there. So I'm actually surprised this number is not bigger, but I may live in a bubble of very tech-savvy individuals. But 63% of our respondents said that they're using AI in their shopping journey. So many of them are using it multiple times a week. There is still, over 40% who have yet to use it, and I think that's very similar to how e-commerce was adopted. I know even anecdotally, my own parents didn't do their first Amazon order until COVID. But I do believe that AI is going to be a much faster adoption as people become more comfortable with it. What about you, Kait? Are you using it in your day-to-day?
Oh my gosh, that would be an understatement. We at Brij, we talk about using AI to be a 10x better operator, and it truly does create so much efficiency. So yes, I use it as a consumer on a day-to-day basis. I use it to make myself a lot more efficient. Any workflow that feels frustrating or in any way kind of monotonous, I'm using AI. And my favorite new pastime is Claude Code. So I'm literally, it's about coding, but it's truly so easy. You prompt Claude the same way that you would, any sort of LLM, ChatGPT, or Claude, and you tell them the task that you want to do, and it, builds it. And what's, I think, particularly interesting about, how it's structured is that it tells you the steps that it's going to take. So you're approving each step in kind of creating these different workflows. So yes, I'm a huge AI fan.
Awesome. So the other thing that's very interesting is the speed of adoption of the various platforms. What's also interesting is just how fragmented it has become. Also the fact that what used to be, so using image creation, right? People are using ChatGPT, then they were using Nano Banana on Gemini, and there seems to be this constant race for different functionality. And in our survey, we did find that Gemini was the fastest growing platform for consumers in their journey. You can see in the light green a year ago, ChatGPT was definitely the far winner, and that's still the case, but we are seeing gains from Gemini. And then you have Copilot, Rufus, Grok, it's holding on. And then again, you can really see how the only green bar that has gone down is just those who've never used it yet. So that adoption is coming, and I think we all need to embrace what is coming. So this is one of the most interesting insights of our survey, which is that AI has veto power. We used to think about influencers and how they could sway how or what you buy, but now almost 51% of the correspondents said that they abandon a purchase after AI flags something. So again, anecdotally, I even had an experience of a hair oil that I kept receiving Instagram ads for, and it takes a few months to see results, and yet the company was only 9 months old. So it's very questionable what their claims were. And even more interesting is the consumers are following up and saying, well, if this brand is sketchy or sus, who else should I buy? So this is really helping build the trust with the consumer, and all the more reason why having good reviews is going to play a continued vital role within the e-commerce ecosystem. Have you seen anything?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was thinking about the review piece because reviews have always been very important and critical. Especially you think about retail media and marketplaces. Of course, with Amazon, reviews have been a clear driver of search. But now, as search is really collapsing, and you're looking for answers as opposed to looking for search terms, those reviews can have the answers in them. And so it is the type of content that these LLMs, reviews are a critical piece of that content. Also, Reddit threads, places where people are conversationally providing real feedback on products are what these LLMs are surfacing to help answer these questions.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting, though, how there is this tension point between creators and AI, because AI has the ability to replace creators and their authority, but the creator content also really feeds how the AI is making some of these decisions. And so when you think about Conquesting and the consumer funnel, right, and brands are investing big money into brand awareness campaigns, and now at the bottom of the funnel where AI is really making a play, there's this massive conquesting opportunity. So in our survey, we found almost 80% of shoppers switched brands as a part of that journey. And then, they're actively then, as I shared, asking who else they should buy instead. So there may be a future where you don't have to spend the really big brand dollars. You just have to have a really good AI program where you're going after your competitors.
Yeah, I think that if you think about different playbooks that brands have employed, there is always this arbitrage in the market. It's where is their growth? You think about Poppy, and it's a largely undifferentiated soda water, but where they really differentiated is Allison Ellsworth was incredible in front of the camera. They were incredible with influencers, so they absolutely ran that playbook very, very well. There's undoubtedly an opportunity in this AEO, GEO space to take advantage of that arbitrage. So there are many companies that have lived off of SEO and kind of that organic search for decades, and that's kind of the playbook that that worked for them. There is this absolute opportunity for honestly both B2B companies and especially for consumer brands to optimize for the fact that AI search is going to drive very real conversions.
Absolutely. Any experience shares from the group so far about how AI is coming into your marketing playbook? Or are we in an information gathering stage? Because, I think we all have to. It's just moving so quickly. All right, we'll keep going here. So this is a crazy statistic, but almost 51% of the consumers that are using AI in their discovery are buying it on Amazon. So they're looking at these other channels. Almost 11% are going, 8% are going to the D2C. They're also buying in store as a part of this. But it's Amazon. So we see this new opportunity of AI to Amazon funnel, where they're discovering through AI, but they're still transacting on Amazon.
That's really interesting. It makes sense, right? Amazon has become the winner at the best consumer experience. You get the products the fastest, and so it becomes AI search becomes the way that you discover the brand, and Amazon is how you transact.
And in many ways, the AI or the Amazon SERP, it's really price driven, where AI is much more personalized to what you need. Maybe you want a higher priced item. You don't want the cheapest flashlight or the cheapest pan for making eggs. You want something that's higher end and you want to trust it, and you still have Amazon as a part of your basically they're the logistical partner to get it to your door in 1 or 2 days. But that there may even be this distrust of the Amazon SERP because it's been so manipulated over the years and rewarding the lowest cost or the highest unit volume product versus what's best for you and your consumer choices. All right, so we've been making this much more conversational, but I do want to give you the floor, Kait, too, to share what are some of the AI components of your business and how you're bringing that into your tracking of the consumer journey for your clients.
Sure. So just backing up a little bit more about Brij, as I briefly mentioned when I introduced myself, Brij helps bridge the offline and the online for omnichannel brands. So we help them acquire, analyze, and activate first-party data across any channel that they sell. I think core to part of the conversation today is that the consumer is shopping across more channels than ever. We have online, in-store, Amazon, TikTok Shop, and now LLMs. And so that consumer journey is increasingly fragmented, but the consumer actually doesn't care where they purchase the product. We just spoke about why they might discover the brand through LLM, but then transact through Amazon. They purchase wherever is convenient to them and whatever best suits their needs. And so brands increasingly want to meet their customer wherever they want to shop, including on LLMs. That's kind of core to what we do at Brij, is we help a brand meet their customer wherever that customer wants to shop. And core to that is having first-party data. And so as we think about LLMs, honestly providing another level of disintermediation between a brand and their customer, it becomes even more critical for brands to have that first-party data. So that is what we do. Some of the brands we work with, Skull Candy, Quip, Chobani, Feastables, we have different ways to help them deliver a value transfer to their consumer in exchange for first-party data capture. So from warranty registration to gift with purchase to entering a sweepstakes. From an AI perspective, AI is fundamental to how we have built our product, but to kind of break down some of the ways in which AI is present in our product. One is the ability to chat with your data. So think about an agent that you can chat with any of that first-party data that we're collecting. We're collecting receipts. We're collecting what retailer the customer comes from, the product. And so what we know and understand at Brij is that brands aren't buying data. They're buying growth. And so we can bring that data directly from insights to help a marketer understand how to use that data to grow their business. And that's honestly been one of the really powerful things about using LLMs, is that you don't need to know the right question. You can just ask directly for the insights. So I'm a marketer. Tell me how I can grow my Amazon business better with this data. So that's the AI chat component of our product. The other piece of AI in our product is, when we're delivering the value transfer, you're doing so through a landing page. And so we call them experiences. They're customer experiences. So you can build those in the same with text to prompt. So you can build these mobile-first landing pages in minutes that are optimized for that first-party data capture. So those are the two key components from what the day-to-day brand user sees from an AI component. We also think about, how do we fundamentally structure our data for an AI first world? And so that's a really important thing that everyone needs to be thinking about. And so every piece of data that we're collecting, tagging it in a way that can be utilized, not just within the Brij platform, but wherever that brand might want to have their source of truth to consolidate their data. So we have an MCP. It stands for Model Context Protocol. That is effectively an API, but to LLMs. So you can pull out your Brij data into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your LLM of choice is, so that you can have this central repository of all of your data. And that is absolutely something that we are seeing as kind of a movement in the industry, is that you're not going to have these pockets of siloed data. You want to bring all of your data together so that you can provide as much context as possible when making different decisions. So that is how Brij is using AI. As it relates to the consumer journey and where there are opportunities for brands and what brands should be thinking about, so from a search perspective, AEO, GEO is critically important. And so making sure that you are structuring your assets, that you are structuring your data in a way that, and even proactively thinking, there's a lot of tools out there to help support this, that your content is optimized for this new AEO, GEO strategy. And I'm saying AEO/GEO because there hasn't been a clear convergence on what is the preferred use of a term there. But that is critically important as optimizing search, which is then setting you up for the next piece, which is agentic shopping. And so I think that agentic shopping, meaning agent is shopping on behalf of the consumer. And I think that we're still really early in agentic shopping right now, and there will definitely be a bifurcation of what type of products are better done through an agent versus where is the human in the loop much more important. My personal view is that grocery reorder is one of the first categories, those consumables where there's not a ton of thought involved is going to be the most logically done by an agent versus higher consideration purchases where the research element of shopping is actually part of the joy of a consumer journey. So that's the kind of the next wave to be thinking about. I think something that we've seen across the consumer base and we're seeing in brand behavior as well is that while e-commerce has been an unbelievable way for personalization and convenience, that people are tired of being on their screen constantly. And so we've seen a huge wave of brands doing IRL pop-ups and thinking more about that in-store experience as a way to differentiate from this true overload of just digital, which I even see amongst my team, there's a big wave of knitting and other truly activities that where you're just not on your phone. And so while the phone and digital shopping and AI shopping have created so many efficiencies, there is this huge shift to IRL also. All that being said, where Brij fits into that consumer journey is, whether the customer is shopping, IRL in store or online, you can help meet your customer wherever they want to shop. We will help collect that first-party data to have that direct relationship. And as I mentioned, that will be increasingly important as there's additional disintermediation by LLMs.
And I'm curious, maybe you have this data on the top of your, recited, maybe you don't, but in terms of the consumer journeys that you do track through Brij, how often are consumers switching retailers and channels? Or do you see that there are certain categories where consumers will maybe always buy on D2C or always buy in Target or always buy on Amazon?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know that I have it down to the percentage of channel, but we see cross-channel shopping all the time. But then we also see that there's a cohort of consumers that are Amazon shoppers only, or Costco shoppers only, and they're very loyal to that channel. So it does depend on the category of the product, but then it also is on the consumer profile. Some consumers are willing to shift channels, but some are just very loyal to that channel that they shop for. I recently just kind of stepping back and also answering that question a different way. There's channel for discovery, there is channel for information gathering and validation, and then there's the channel where you actually transact. And so what we do see is that the consumer is looking across multiple channels and doing their research, and honestly now can have the LLM help them do that research in a way that is this very fragmented journey. And so Amazon, in many ways, could be where they go to for validation because of the massive review platform, could also be where they transact, but may or may not be. And so kind of really thinking about how each stage of that funnel is played by different channels, because it's not just really where the customer transacts. Take TikTok, for example. It is this massive, discovery channel now, which now with TikTok Shop has its own ability to, become that point of conversion. But absolutely, the, awareness that TikTok is creating affects retail sales, affects Amazon sales. There's a very clear halo effect. So it's, it can't really be thought of, channels can't really be thought of in this binary way as just where the customer transacts.
Yeah. And so what do brands do about attribution of what I call the invisible sales? Maybe it was the really awesome affiliate on TikTok that actually drove the Target sale, but you can't.
Yeah, I mean, brands are literally like banging their heads against the wall to to have better attribution across channels. There are tools such as MMMs, which help you with synthetic data to look at what the allocation of spend across different channels, how that affects ultimately your sales. Brij, we are getting offline purchase data, so when we get that post-purchase first-party data, so that's deterministic data. Mm-hmm. It is not the entire picture, but we can send that back to MMMs and other models to help provide that attribution, and it could help actually also validate the example that I gave of TikTok, providing that halo effect to retail.
Amazing. Any questions from the audience? Are we just soaking it all in? Ask ChatGPT about the combo later. So let's see, cross-platform tests. So we're gonna test your own category in 5 minutes. Do we want to do a little game here about what we're seeing? So something that's really interesting, even in our initial research, is across these different LLMs, you're getting variously different results. And what's even crazier is it can change by week, too. Again, anecdotally, there was 1 week our website received 14 leads, and then the next week we got 0. And all of those leads came through ChatGPT, and it just revolves, and they just keep keeping us on our toes, because you think of the Amazon algorithm or even the TikTok algorithm, like you can kind of study it and you think you know what's happening for a period of time. These LLMs, they're changing every single day, it feels like. And that's what makes it really complicated and keeps us marketers with a job to be had. So anyways, just when it comes to AEO tracking, we're really trying to keep a forefront here. We're actually releasing our own AEO visibility tracker within My Horizons, which is our proprietary analytics suite. Because of that 51% transaction on Amazon, we know we need to have insight into what's happening in the LLM ecosystem. What are those queries that those customers are searching? Taking those queries, adding them into the natural language copywriting we want within the listings. But similar to what you're doing too, is we're also feeding it back to the LLM. So proper product information, all of the integrity that we manage on the Amazon listings will be feeding back to the LLMs too. So Kait, you even highlighted this. Data foundation is number one if you really want to be impactful as it pertains to LLM optimization. You got to have the right infrastructure, and content is what's going to feed those engines. So I thank you all for participating. Any questions? Anything else you want to add?
I had a quick question.
Oh yeah, let's go, Matt.
For in-store tracking,
Yeah.
how are brands, what's the mechanism in which you're getting the data, you're tracking that in-store purchase?
Yeah, good question. Often it's through a QR code, so it could be pre-purchase, some sort of, I guess like that would be an in-store point of sale opportunity. We have brands that will share rebates or sweepstakes as a way to drive purchase through their influencers, their paid media, and then post-purchase, that's where the QR code with a value transfer. So it could be a free gift, it can be a discount off of the replacement filter of their product off of your next purchase, or even a warranty registration. So that's often in kind of like an insert or in their post-purchase unboxing experience.
Makes sense.
Any other questions or comments?
What is everyone's thoughts on the ads that are coming for brands and the pilots that are happening there within LLM?
I think how they roll it out will be really interesting. Like, will it, I mean, based on government regulation, like, it has to be called out that it's an ad. Otherwise, that's considered misleading. And I think just like what you see with Google, sometimes you click the ad because it's interesting. Other times you put more weight on the organic content. But yes, I saw that ChatGPT, I think, hired someone from Meta, so it's all coming together.
I mean, I'm not surprised. It's like the, ads are the way that, search and context are monetized. So it feels like the natural transition to be able to monetize that and, to purchase that space. And, to your point, there's like the organic, what is surface, but then there's also ads that are also have that context and are relevant to you that you're going to click on because it has the context and the engine behind it as well.
I think we're just going to continue to be really good copywriters. Like, we'll have to feed that into the LLMs. Well, amazing. So we have our next session coming up. Kait, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
To discuss AI and the e-commerce ecosystem.